Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. The Canadians get beat 4-2 in game 1 of round 2 of these playoffs here against the Buffalo Sabres. That was a tough game. I think the general consensus, in my opinion, is that the Canadians just did not look like they were prepared for what Buffalo was going to bring in this series here. They just did not really seem to be at the same level of intensity. It didn't really feel like they were prepared for what they were going to face against the Buffalo Sabres in this game, in this series, and they definitely got beat. I think the biggest thing here is just, the Canadians made some defensive errors there. I mean, every game is going to have defensive errors. Like, that's the way it goes, right? Both teams are going to have, times where they lapse defensively a little bit, but it just felt like every single time the Canadians had a little bit of an error defensively in their own zone, in the neutral zone, whatever, Buffalo was able to capitalize on every single time. There were so many posts hit, there were so many near misses and all that kind of stuff from Buffalo. It could have easily been like 8-2 in this one in favor of the Buffalo Sabres. There were just so many opportunities. They were snapping the puck around, they were skating hard, they were making things happen, they were making they were putting tons of pressure, exactly how Tampa Bay did in the first round series. Like, there was so much going in their direction. The Canadians just were not able to respond to that. They just got, they dug themselves a hole early. They were down 2-0 by the time like midway through to near the end of the first period there. They just never really recovered from that initial push. Did not get better into the second period there, and that's exactly what happens there. It's just, the biggest thing is that Buffalo was just, so opportunistic. They were making smart plays. They were making smart passes. They were moving that puck around. They were skating hard, pressuring, doing everything they needed to do in that one. And the Canadians just weren't doing that same thing. I felt like, for the most part of this game, just the Canadians just looked a little bit behind, a little bit sleepy in this one. They just weren't really ready for what was coming next. I think, you can't really say it's an experience difference, because Buffalo, doesn't have a whole lot of play of experience either. We're pretty much on par with each other in that category. So I just was a little bit disappointed with how the Canadians came out there. Obviously, you look at the two goals that started things off here. Josh Doan started off on, the 4.5 minutes in. That's a tough one. It's just Lane Hudson almost scores the other way and then falls over, collecting the puck in the neutral zone. Whenever that happens, it's automatically going to be an odd man rush. They make great use of that. Dobson isn't quite able to block that pass with a diving play. Goes cross crease. It's a goal. That's tough. Obviously, not a situation that's going to happen very often there, but it's tough to, pretty early into the game go down 1-0 because of a silly, unfortunate error, just like falling down. Like, that's a tough situation. Ryan McLeod on the power play gets another one, mostly just because, our power play, their power play is not very good at all. They did score twice in the power play on this game, but I felt like, we were doing a great job on the kill. We killed one earlier on in the game, and then this is our second one. We were doing a nice job, but I felt like we were doing a little bit too much searching for the puck and trying to, dig the puck out from, the middle of the ice there. We weren't doing enough of a job of, covering the options. We ended up losing that puck battle. Then it goes cross crease again for another goal to make it 2-0 there, and it's just, we're not covering the dangerous passing areas. I think you would much rather let the Buffalo Sabres dig that puck out from the middle of the ice and try to work it around again, considering that we had done a good job on the kill up to that point. But at the same time, it's just frustrating when stuff like that happens. Dobish can't really do anything about those two goals there. He just gets beat on a cross crease pass both times. We need defensemen blocking those and being in that area. Need to be a little bit more disciplined as well. You can argue about the calls all you want, but I think the majority of the reason why we're even in the box in the first place for most of this game is just because the Buffalo Sabres were putting tons of pressure on us and forcing us to take penalties to prevent scoring chances in the first place. So you can be upset about a call that might have been controversial or whatever, but it really just felt to me like that entire game was just the Buffalo Sabres putting tons and tons of pressure and just waves and waves on the Canadians and forcing us to take penalties, scoring goals, all that kind of stuff. They were doing everything they needed to do and doing it well. The Canadians were just behind the game the entire time. Nick Suzuki gets his second of the postseason on the power play in the final minute there. Definitely a big goal to keep us in the game. Slavkovsky and Demidov do nice jobs to get the assists on there. Demidov makes a nice backhand pass pass play that finds Slavkovsky, who just kind of walks his way up into the front of the net area, makes a nice pass over to Suzuki, and he bangs that one home. Gives us that 2-1 deficit instead of 2-0 there. So it definitely a big goal. I like to see that our power play is working well. I thought, even on our second power play opportunity, we had some nice looks and definitely could have scored. Demidov had a good look in that second period on the power play. So definitely some opportunities there. I like to see that. I like to see us scoring goals on that power play as well. We're going to need our goal scoring to come from other places other than Cole Caulfield. So it's good to see we're able to move the puck around both areas of the ice to find a way to score. So a good goal there. We're only down 1 going into the second period, but then 3.5 minutes into that second period, Jordan Greenway scores one. And this one I don't love. I mean, obviously there's screen and all that kind of stuff, but it really looks like Greenway just kind of skated into the zone and took a rip glove side, and Dobes just kind of missed the puck, went kind of off his glove and into the top of the net there. So definitely one that I feel like Dobes should have had there. I haven't said that very often at all in this postseason, but in a game where nobody was really going very hard, nobody was really doing what they needed to be doing to the best of their ability. Of course, Dobes is going to be roped in with that a little bit. So an unfortunate one. You'd like to have that one back. I think one that if it goes off your glove and in, that's a tough one. Obviously, we've been the benefactor of a goal like that in the first round series with that Texier goal that he had against Vasilevsky. But the things like that happen. Obviously, it's tough, especially for Dobes. I'm sure he knows that he probably should have had that one, especially when he got the glove on it in the first place. But it's the way it goes. It gives them that 2-goal advantage again. And then on the power play, they score one more time. It's Bowen Byram's 4th goal of the postseason, and this one's frustrating. We win the face-off in the D zone on the penalty kill, and Mike Matheson tries to clear that puck out, but it gets knocked down by the stick of a Buffalo player, which kind of throws our entire penalty kill scheme off. We're kind of all out of position because we're all kind of in the corner from that face-off win in the first place, which gives Bowen Byram a ton of room to kind of walk all the way down to the top of the circles and just rip one on the far side. Dobes, can't really blame him on that one. That's a great shot. If you look back, it's a perfectly placed shot to that far left corner there. What we need to do is find a way to get that puck out. You cannot let things like that happen. If we have possession of the puck in the D zone on the penalty kill, that puck has to get out of the zone. Mike Matheson has to do a little bit of a better job there. And outside of that, obviously sometimes that's going to happen where it's not going to get out. We need to be a little bit better at getting back into position a little bit and getting back into that box diamond formation, whatever, to start the penalty kill back up again. Neither of those things happen there, and that's what leads to that 4th goal. And at that point, we're down 4-1. That's tough. It's going to be really challenging, especially the way that Buffalo is playing, to get back into this one. And again, going through the rest of the second period into the third period, there were so many posts that they hit and big saves that Dobes had to make later on into that game. It could have been a lot worse than what the score sheet actually shows. But yeah, at that point, I feel like, Buffalo, they had their chances for sure, but they kind of turned off the offensive mindset a little bit, just tried to play a shutdown role for the rest of the game there. Kirby Dach obviously had a beautiful goal to bring it back within 2. It was a really nice play. He gets a forehand shot, and then kind of as he's falling down, backhand roofs that one over Lyon. A great goal there, and a very timely goal as well. Obviously, it didn't really mean anything at the end of the day, but definitely being down only 2 going into the third as opposed to 3 is a big difference there. And we definitely got some momentum off of that as well into the later stages of that second period. Almost got another one in the dying moments there, but couldn't quite capitalize. And as I said before, into the entire third period there, it was just so much of, Buffalo just shutting us down defensively and, doing everything they needed to do to just make sure that we weren't able to, get anything going there. Pretty much everything we tried to do in the third period didn't work. There was really no point in the third period where I was really even considering that the Canadians might score a goal. It was just, every time we get in, we just dump the puck in and nobody would chase after it. Or, every time we were in the D zone, it just looked looked like, everybody else on the Canadians was just kind of watching the one player who's trying to win the puck battle and just hoping that something would squeak out. It just felt like, especially into the third period, just seemed like the Canadians were just so exhausted into that third period. There was just nothing going for them. They couldn't find a way to make anything work into that later stage there. It just felt like, through the 40 minutes of play there, that Buffalo had just taken everything out of their sails, and the Canadians just didn't have anything left in that third period to make anything happen. We had some great chances with the goalie pulled there. Could have definitely found a way to score at least one goal there, but Buffalo again did a nice job of shutting us down there, making sure that we weren't able to score there, and it ends up being a 4-2 loss. Yeah, it's frustrating. You look at the stats there. We outshot them by 12 there. Outdid them on the face-off circle, 62.7 to 37.3. Did a nice job, 1 out of 2 on the power play there. Out hit them. Same blocks, all that kind of stuff. It's really just the biggest difference there that I saw is just Buffalo is absolutely lethal on turnovers there. Anytime the Canadians make any sort of mistake in their D zone, in the neutral zone, in our offensive zone, anytime there's a mistake, they're getting a 2-on-1 out of it, a 3-on-2 out of it, and they're making good use of those plays. A lot of those goals came from exactly those kinds of things. We make plays that don't work out. We make mistakes defensively, and they come back the other way and they make us pay. I think every single goal that Buffalo scored, except for maybe the Greenway one, the third goal there, I think all the other ones were just defensive mistakes that they generated offense off of and scored a goal. And there was definitely more that they could have scored on that didn't go in, so it could have been a lot worse, as I mentioned. Like another time, this is something that I've been talking about for ages this season. It just happens over and over again. Is Montreal's defense, is pinching all the time. Dobson pinches all the time. Hudson pinches all the time. And obviously when it works, it's great. And Hudson can generate some offense, getting the puck off that half wall in our offensive zone there. But there's a ton of times, I saw it again a ton of times in this game where the offense gets going because Hudson or Dobson or somebody is pinching down low. They don't win the puck battle, and all of a sudden it's an odd man rush going the other way. And Buffalo, again, I don't think that the Canadians are going to be able to do stuff like that going forward. It's just not going to work. There's so many opportunities that the Sabres got on odd man rushes because of people pinching and being a little bit too offensively minded, and they end up going the other way and getting great chances. There's just so many opportunities like that where our offense is in the zone, our defense pinches up to try to help out on offense, and all of a sudden the Buffalo Sabres pick the puck up and they're going on an odd man rush the other way, and they have a great chance to score. So that's going to be something that we have to take a look at going forward. They need to be a little bit more defensively minded, a little bit more two-way in that way. Obviously, we want guys like Hudson and Dobson to be involved in our offense, but they also have to be smart and be aware of the fact that we're getting a little bit exploited on that those turnovers that happen because of those pinches, and need to be a little bit sharper there. So I think obviously I don't think that the season is over already, right? We only lost one game, only down 1-0 in the series. There's still plenty of hockey awaiting us here. I think the Canadians are still in a good position. We need to learn from this loss, absolutely, because now that we've played one game against them, we know how lethal they can be offensively and how they can also do a great job shutting us down. We need to put them in a position where they're the ones on their heels, right? We need to start giving them some of their own medicine, being offensively minded, getting a little bit more energy here. Felt like the energy level in game one as a whole just wasn't really there, and that's a big problem. I think if we can get our energy levels going, being a little bit more offensively minded on the forecheck, try to get some hitting going, all that kind of stuff. If we can do a little bit better in that department, I think we'll be better off overall. But that, and also just the turnovers need to be handled, right? I don't even think the turnovers were that lopsided either way in this game. The giveaways, takeaways, obviously, actually, we only gave away the puck 7 times, right? Buffalo gave away the puck 15 times in this game, but it felt like every single time the Canadians gave the puck away, it turned into a goal the other way for the Buffalo Sabres. And they even talked about that on the broadcast of how lethal Buffalo can be on turnovers and, creating offense off off of, defensive mistakes from the other team. We need to be sharper in that capacity. We need to make better passes, better defensive plays all around, because if we're going to give them opportunities on odd man rushes, turnovers, all that kind of stuff, we're not going to win any games in this series. So my two takeaways there are the Canadians need to bring a little bit more energy in game two. Obviously, we need to get our top guys going still. I still don't really feel like Caulfield is having an impact at all in this series. He just kind of seems like an extra guy out there right now. It's been really frustrating to watch, actually. Obviously, Caulfield's my favorite player on the team. He does a great job. He's usually a pretty impactful player, but I don't know what's going on with him right now, but it doesn't really feel like he's having the same kind of impact that he usually has. It just feels like, every time he's got the puck, he's just kind of giving it away to somebody else, like a quick pass off or whatever, dumping the puck in the zone or whatever. It doesn't really feel like he's got the same kind of confidence that he's had throughout the remainder, throughout most of the regular season here. So I feel like there's got to be some sort of way that he can get back into the game a little bit. That outside of that, though, just the entire team needs to bring a little bit more energy into game two. We need to be a little bit more, responsible and, be mindful of our defensive play, be a little bit more responsible overall defensively. If we can bring a little bit more energy and a little bit more defensive responsibility, I think we'll be able to find the goals when they come, when those opportunities come for us, and we'll find a way to get this win here. So that is pretty much all I have for this one. Definitely a disappointing start to this series. I think Buffalo is definitely going to be a formidable opponent, as I think we all probably could have expected. They're a very solid team. They've all been very hungry for postseason hockey there, and they're showing it right now. If we don't change our game, we're going to have to be going home early. So we got to find a way to make a win come here. We got to find a way to get a win on the road here in game two. So yeah, I think just bringing the energy, being a little bit more responsible defensively, the goals will come. So that's pretty much all I have for this one. Disappointing again, as I said, but I think we'll find a way in game two here. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you after a big win on the road in game two on Friday.